Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Friday at 4. I am James Schreiber, and as always, we have Amanda Van Dierheiden with us. Amanda is going to introduce our special guest for this week, is someone I believe you will really enjoy listening to and finding some useful information, I hope. Amanda, why don't you take it from here?
That's right. Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great week. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Tim Tobin, who is the Managing Director of Russell Tobin Associates and Pride Health. He specializes in talent acquisition, so we're really excited to dig into that topic today. Tim, welcome.
Thank you very much, Amanda and James. Looking forward to participating today.
Thank you for being here. So let's just kick it off. Talent acquisition is a big fancy word. Why don't we simplify, and what's your definition of talent acquisition, and how is it different than simply recruiting?
So talent acquisition is an overly broad term. It goes from curb appeal to brand awareness to engagement to the acquisition of talent. That leads right into the retention and L&D. So I look at it, it is all encompassing. It's not just a job, in my opinion. It's a livelihood. It's something that you don't turn on and turn off. It's something that you are always doing. If you look at some of the more experienced and accomplished recruiters or talent acquisition professionals, I think they have really focused on building a network and creating awareness about their personal brand on behalf of their organization, what is important to them. And there is a marketing component with that to create awareness and to talk about what the company might be looking to accomplish in its human capital management. So recruiting, I think, sometimes is perceived more as a reactive measure, and it's trying to fill a role where talent acquisition will have that under the umbrella of TA. That is a component to it, but it's also being proactive about what the firm is up to and what it's trying to accomplish to create that awareness to be a potential employer of choice.
Absolutely. And I know when we spoke offline, your personal philosophy about that human capital piece is adding the human right back in human capital. And I love that. It's a great reminder to us all that we throw around these big fancy words, but at the end of the day, it's about people. It's about our people on our teams, the people that we're looking to keep and bring on and develop. And it's also about, the people out there and them. So it's not just a big fancy word. It actually boils down to an individual level too. Talk a little bit about, the transformation of talent acquisition in the past few decades that you've been in this world.
So I think you gave me a good segue there where the employee was not always going to be catered to as much as they are now. Their options were not as vast as they are now. 20 years ago when I first graduated, people were expecting to have jobs for the next 10, 15 years even, maybe not 20 or 30 like some of our parents, but 10 to 15 plus. So the amount of training that went into that hire was dependent on the person being there for 10 to 15 years. So there has been a major shift in our human capital management ecosystem to more of a gig type of approach. And a gig could be a full-time opportunity, but it's not so much the place where you're going to be for the rest of your career. So companies have had to shift to become more nimble and even condensing their training curriculum, knowing that they're not going to have somebody for 5, 10 plus years, and they only might have them for 12, 18, 24, 36 months. So there's been a tremendous transformation and shift to identifying, attracting, equipping these individuals, and then being that employer of choice while they are there. There's a greater adoption of artificial intelligence with regards to identifying talent that's out in the marketplace. People are talking about the emphasis on AI and different algorithms and how that might replace the role of the recruiter. And I've been asking people, I said, well, if you find yourself looking for a new opportunity or suddenly unemployed, do you want to talk to a chatbot or do you want to talk to a person? How organizations manage their workforce, again, has become a lot more sophisticated. Looking at candidates today, like they are your clients because they are. Unemployment's the lowest it's been in over 50 years. Candidates have more options at their disposal than ever before. And it's something that progressive companies have understood and adapted and adjusted to. And they're the ones that are most likely getting the talent working with and for them versus the alternative. So looking at the approach to the human element and the utilization of AI, because I do think that technology is paramount in this transformation with how you find talent, how you communicate with talent, how you stay engaged with talent. It's not just, is this person going to fill this role for me today? This person should be in our network for their career as they progress and grow. We might not be the employer of choice today, but we might be the employer of choice in 3, 6, 5 years or 3, 6, 5 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to kick it to Jim because this is his world as well. Jim, what's your take?
Right. And thank you, Tim. That was very, very interesting. And one of the things that I really agree with you, would love to get some feedback from you as well, is how things have changed in the communication between our industry and the talent or the candidate. There seems to be a lack of the human touch. Many young recruiters coming up today are engaged in text or email, but picking up that phone and making that personal connection via a conversation is not always on the top of their list. And I've always found, and I'd love to get your opinion on it, that making that connection, making that personal connection one-on-one between myself and a potential candidate is something that is long lasting and will build that relationship and keep that relationship sustained moving into the future, if not for placing that candidate, even for referrals. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Now, that's a very, very real challenge, and I think also an opportunity currently. We are operating in a multi-generational society and employment workforce right now, and it reminds me of the golden rule in terms of treating others about how or as you want to be treated. But I also have learned about the platinum rule, treat others as they want to be treated. So that personal touch, I think, comes from how they might want to be connected or connected to or communicated with. So the talent acquisition professional, the recruiter, the service provider, I believe, has to figure out how to be well received to the stakeholders that they're trying to connect with. And that could be texting, it could be phone calls, it could sometimes even be the old Pony Express. So maybe fewer now than before, but I know I open up a handwritten letter anytime I get home first across or ahead of any other letter that I might open. But I think that versatility and adaptability is essential, but also it's not either or. You might have to take a dual approach to it. You might have to call, follow up with a text because the person might not be in a position or the ability to speak. They might be driving, they might be in a meeting, but they will want to respond to something that will be over email or text messaging. I think that also knowing the boundaries on when to stop following up. There's this thing called ghosting, which I'm sure many of us are aware of. And I think that comes because it's easy to do to somebody that you've never met before, to somebody you've only had a phone call with. So we always try to meet with people because I believe that is becoming a lost art in terms of a handshake and face-to-face, eye-to-eye conversations. Even having an opportunity to have a video conference ahead of a phone call or a phone interview would differentiate you from everyone else that's out there. So the onus, I believe, is on us as talent acquisition professionals to figure out what's going to work for each of the individuals out there that we're interacting with.
Yeah, good point, and agree with you 100%. I'd like to shift it now to one of the other topics that I'm finding is really important today. And it's been important through my whole career, and I'm sure yours as well. And that is part of our job is not just finding a candidate and making that connection to the client and hopefully producing a deal or getting someone placed. But part of that is also coaching, helping the candidate along. Especially, I'm finding in today's market, the more senior a candidate is, up the scale from director to senior director to VP to beyond, they need that touch. They haven't been on the market as much. They might not understand what it's like to be on the other side of that phone call or redoing their resume. So that coaching aspect, in some ways, I've actually said we actually become their agent, and they rely on us to help them through this process. Number one, they're busy, but number two, they really haven't done it as much as maybe somebody at a lower level. What are your thoughts on that?
James, I think that's an excellent point, and you're absolutely right that a lot of people look at maybe how they are present in the digital world today, LinkedIn being the leading professional network opportunity out there, and only really looking at it as a repository and being utilized when they need it versus continuously. So I have always found myself surprised when I meet with a senior leader, even in a highly networking capacity, that when I look at their LinkedIn profile, they have 150 connects, meaning they're not really leveraging the technology or the tool or the power of it. So to your point, yes, it's very much a matter of coaching, because sometimes these individuals find themselves unemployed. And when they look around to figure out who they can go to for help, they don't know where to start. And they haven't maintained their network over the last 5, 10, 15 years, even if they have shifted jobs or if they stayed in the same organization. There needs to be, most likely they have adopted Facebook or Instagram or something, but there's lack of a migration from personal into professional. I'm not saying to mix the two, but the contacts should be in both places. So a lot of times when I have these conversations, it is about coaching. It's also about talking about the role that you want to pursue. And because there's so many opportunities out there, you don't necessarily only have to focus on the experience. You can highlight what you have enjoyed the most and what you want to do. So leveraging those aspects of your experience to hopefully get that position that's going to be most interesting. How a Boolean search might show up, and if your profile will be pulled or identified or not. So that is completing your LinkedIn profile. It's putting yourself out there to extend your network. And a lot of it is it's coaching, it's encouragement, because a lot of times if somebody is looking for work, they might not be in the place personally. So therefore they suffer from some lack of confidence. And we are coaches, we are cheerleaders, we're a support system, and we are here to help people get from point A to point B, from my perspective, even if it doesn't result in a fee. So we often talk about what might be bigger than the fee, and helping somebody enhance their livelihood is something that we really stand in ceremony about and put ahead of what we're doing, because that is more meaningful for our profession.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I've said for many years, almost from the beginning, I don't think there's something more satisfying than taking someone from position A and helping them get to position B and seeing how grateful they are for the help, as well as from a company side, seeing how grateful the company is to have that new individual come on. Yeah, we're all in business. We're all here to drive revenue, but the human touch, the real life aspect of it is something that follows you through your career. And again, and I think those connections that we make, Amanda, are so important, and it helps not only to develop our network and our branding and who we are, but just from a community standpoint. You know, what we do, believe it or not, and I think we all believe it, is important. We provide a valuable resource to both the candidate and a company to help make that connection. And if all goes well, usually everybody's very happy. Amanda, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to segue into, we talked a lot about the individual, but we also, our audience is also people who are at corporations who need to rely on talent acquisition. So let's go more to the organization side of the house focus. And Tim, I would love to hear your recommendations from an organization perspective of how they can improve their talent acquisition services, or how to, where to go with that.
So that is an area that I have a few points that come to mind. Talent acquisition should not solely reside in talent acquisition. The entire organization should be a brand ambassador for what that organization is attempting to do and accomplish. So everyone should be part of that acquisition, from creating awareness to talking through people in their networks, being an advocate for their employer. That will help with the pedigree of talent, the volume of talent, the introductions. I also think that will help with communication internally, because one of the biggest challenges I have heard from our clientele is lack of feedback from hiring managers and lack of responsiveness from hiring managers. Hiring managers might not have looked for a job in the last couple of years or 5 years, so they don't understand the level of pace that the market is currently moving at. So there are SLAs that can be put in place, but it's also an education and awareness element to let hiring managers know if they want to make a decision of somebody one way or another, positive or negatively, they are probably going to get a higher probability of finding the talent they're looking for if they're more responsive. I'm not saying within an hour, but 24 to 48 hours is reasonable, 2 business days, to provide feedback. It's going to strengthen I believe, the partnership and commitment from TA. Feedback is a gift, and if you're getting that detailed feedback on why Jane Doe or John Doe is not right for the role, it's going to allow that TA professional to be more focused and to reset and possibly come back with the ideal candidate for their hiring manager. The talent acquisition professional should always maintain a professional curiosity about what's going on in the business, whether it's in marketing or operations or technology, and get to know their hiring managers and what works in the microclimates of those subsets versus the entire brand of the logo that they're recruiting on behalf of. So that means getting out from behind your desk and getting out there. Hiring managers might not come to you, but it's going to be beneficial if you get in front of them. So a lot of that goes back to the communication, it's the relationship, it's the awareness and the effort, where it probably has to originate from TA, but more times than not, it'd be reciprocated by the hiring managers.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things that I also find, and I try to coach internal talent acquisition departments on, is that it is their job. They should be, number one, the subject matter expert when it comes to talent acquisition within the company. And it's their job also to make sure that the hiring managers are aware if the compensation request is out of the scope of what they're seeing in the market. If the job description is not in conjunction or equal to what the compensation is being offered. And also to be an honest partner with them when it comes to the search. We know what unemployment is, 3.5 or something like that, and in certain sectors even lower. Talent acquisition has to be, I like to say, sometimes the grown-up in the room to explain to the business, look, this is what we're doing to fill these positions, but these are the challenges, and these are how we're overcoming these challenges. They can't simply have a hiring manager, and I like to use this term, say, I really want to get a Rolls Royce with 50,000 or less miles for $50,000, and then simply say, sure, we're going to do that for you. They have to push back and find out, do you really need a Rolls Royce? Could you do it with just a Cadillac or some other car? Really dig down deep, because otherwise they're doing the business a disservice. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I think you're 100% right there. It's a matter of managing expectations and seeing what is possibly preferred versus required or essential with regards to the skill set. If you have specific awareness and knowledge about a category or a geography that you can speak with the hiring manager about, you should do that. and hopefully you are empowered to do that. If you don't, then you need to go out and get your research done, do your market intelligence, whether it's online tools that are available or your partners that are out there in the marketplace, so you can come back more informed to better educate the hiring manager to figure out who is going to be the best candidate and the ideal candidate. Maybe they don't need a Rolls Royce because it doesn't serve the function, because they need to tow a boat. And just because it has a hitch doesn't mean it's going to be the best vehicle for that. And it's probably going to cost a little bit less if you get another vehicle with a hitch. So you might provide some cost savings in the process as well.
Very, very, very good advice. Amanda, I know we're coming up on about 30 minutes. This has been an exciting talk, and would love to, if you're open to it, Tim, and if Amanda agrees, I'd love to have you back, because I think this topic, especially from a corporate side, is something that we could really delve into. And I'd be looking forward to seeing what kind of questions we get. Amanda, maybe you want to do the close, and then we'll move from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start thinking about wrapping up, as this has been great. There's been a lot of great takeaways here. So just to recap a little bit, key number one for both individuals and organizations, you need to be setting expectations properly, whether that's based off of the job description and comp as from an organization perspective, or as an individual, how do you like to be communicated with, and how as a recruiter are you going to be communicating and making sure that people are getting the information needed in a timely manner. One great additional point that Tim brought up was brand, embracing the brand, and that's not just for the recruiter, that's for every employee. How are you talking about your organization outside of work? Because that's going to impact how they attract people and how they keep people, and for their customers too, for that matter. We also want to make sure that we're putting the human back in human capital. I love that phrase, and I think it's really important for us to remember. And as individuals, we need to remember to properly leverage our network. Are we reaching out to our friends and our cousins when we're looking for a new opportunity? Or if our organization needs someone, maybe we can leverage our network to help our organization. And on the organization side, how are we leveraging our employees and our current staff? So a lot of deep stuff here, a lot of great conversation. We would love to have Tim back. Tim, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise and wisdom with us. We really appreciated it.
My pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity. It's nice getting to speak with professionals that share some viewpoints, and hopefully we're all elevating the ecosystem together. So thank you.
Absolutely. Jim, you want to close us out?
Sure. So again, thanks to both Amanda and Tim, and for everybody out there. If you have any questions, please visit www.grtas.net. That is grtas.net. Send us a note. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to reach Tim, send us a note, and we'd be happy to forward his information over to you as well. Please subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell, and then you'll get the updates, as well as our podcast, which thank you to everyone. The last 2 episodes, we have broken our records every week, and I think, Tim, we're going to break our record for downloads this week as well. So really appreciate it. Again, it's Friday. Everybody enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week at Friday at 4.